Hey y'all, this is the video for the popcorn in a bag. So what should be left in your kit if you're following this in order of the videos is 3 small sandwich baggies, which we are going to be using later for the trials we're going to be doing. So then also you're going to have kind of putting this to the side just so I can keep things organized. You're also going to have some sugar, and this isn't really needed until the end if you're actually wanting to like eat the popcorn, if you prefer sugar on your popcorn. If not, you can just ignore the sugar and just continue on watching the tutorial or reading the directions and continue on. Next up, in another sandwich baggie, the small one, you should have a bunch of popcorn kernels that we're actually going to be using for this experiment. And then I just had a leftover sandwich baggie that I'm just displaying here just to kind of show off the full kit. So here with the popcorn kernels, you want to get those 3 small sandwich baggies and just gonna lay them out. Make sure you have like a marker or an expo marker. I'm going to be using a green expo marker. You can also use a black Sharpie or anything that you know is just going to stick on. You can even use like blue tape and pen just to label your bag so you know which one's which. So here I'm just like organizing everything. So first off, I'm just like showing you guys the rest of the ingredients, just like giving a lay back in case you didn't get it the first time. So then with the popcorn kernels in the corner, I'm gonna grab either like a mini measuring cup to kind of make sure that the kernels are spread evenly. I ended up going with the 1/4, and I kind of did a little bit under that, but I kept it consistent, and consistency is key, especially with this experiment, because when you're measuring data, you want to make sure that the data you're collecting is all like even and they're all under the same conditions. So I'm just measuring again about like 1/4 cup into each baggie. So yeah, this is me just measuring out for the rest of the baggies. We are going to be putting the baggies in 3 different environmental conditions to see how it affects the poppiness, so to say, of the popcorn. So the first one, you're going to put it in the refrigerator, which is like the coldest part of the like 2-compartment fridge if you have one of those, or typically wherever your ice, if you have like a refrigerator that uses ice is, or if you keep the ice, if you use the ice tray, that's where you're going to put the 3rd bag of popcorn or whatever bag you want to put into the freezer there. Then the fridge is typically wherever you keep your like water if you want it to be cold, or like fruits, or just like leftover food so it can stay well and not go bad. So you're going to put another baggie in there, and then one you're just going to leave it room temperature. I just put mine in my like storage area, so wherever I usually put like my snacks, so I just put that there. I just ended up doing it like bag 1 was the room temperature, which I put in the storage area. Bag 2 was the refrigerator, and then bag 3 ended up just being my freezer. So this next clip is literally just me labeling and showing you guys the way I labeled it. So again, bag 1 room temperature, bag 2 was the refrigerator, and then bag 3 was also the freezer. So as I'm labeling it, make sure you're taking that air out, just so it's easier, or if you want to do it in a more convenient way, you might want to just label the baggies beforehand and just throw the popcorn kernels in. You don't have to write it as like quote unquote perfectly as I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make sure you guys are able to see what I'm doing. So if the brightness ends up being to kind of lower, that's just a setting so you can actually see the letters on it, since green doesn't really show up as much. So again, I'm just continuing on just to label it, and as I'm continuing to do that, you do notice that I am indeed moving the kernels back, just making sure that everything's organized. And also, even though it's not like on video, I am making sure that all the bags and the kernels in the bags are about even, just so I can get more consistent results with my like experiment whenever I'm testing it out. So once all your bags are labeled, you're then gonna take about a cup of water and put it into a microwave safe bowl. This is really important so your bag doesn't like melt. So you're gonna put it in there, and then you're just gonna microwave it for about a minute. This is to ensure that when you're popping their kernels, they're all under the same microwave conditions, so you don't have any external factors that are going to harm how your popcorn pops when you're recording it. So here I am just adding the water, and then after that I'm going to microwave. So when you microwave, just make sure you have something that helps you take it out if it's hot, because sometimes it does turn out hot. And that's just me setting it for a minute just to visibly show you guys. So once that's done, I just made a quick chart. This comes in your kit when you pay for it. So if you're watching this video right now, you should have a chart already made for you. But if not, it's simply a T-chart. And towards the end of the video, I do go more in detail. So I'm going to start off with the first bag, which was at room temperature. Note that the bowl I'm using is not microwave safe, and so this is just to show you what happens when you don't use a microwave safe bowl. So I did it for the full 5 minutes when I was originally testing it, and I realized that was way too long, because as you're gonna see soon, whenever I recorded it, it kind of came out a little bit on the burnt side. It wasn't fully burnt, but it was getting to that point. And if you've microwaved popcorn before, if you usually use the bags, you do know that certain burnt popcorn smell, and it started emerging. So if you do want to do the whole 5 minutes, you can go ahead. I'm just giving a warning, just so if you do want to eat the popcorn and not just do the experiment, you don't get food poisoning from eating semi-burnt popcorn. And when I compare it, you can kind of see one's black and the other is kind of like a caramely orange yellow color, which is what it's supposed to be. And then when I kind of measure out the volume in a second, you'll kind of see how it affected not only my popcorn but also the container itself. So we don't want to destroy the container because these are reusable ones. And as you can see at the back, there were a lot of holes that were burnt through it just because of how it wasn't made for the microwave, which is why it is very important that you use a microwave safe, not even just plastic, just microwave safe bowl. And then also when you're popping it in the microwave, if you don't know what a microwave cover is, it's basically something that you can put over whatever you're warming so that it doesn't make your whole microwave dirty. So you definitely want to do that so the popcorn kernels just don't spat out, and you can actually control it, and it's going to be much easier for you to continue on with your experiment. I want to mention that the time I ended up using was about 4 minutes and 30 seconds for about 20 minutes for the freezer and about 30 minutes for the fridge. But I do recommend you do the whole 24 hours. This is just a tutorial to kind of show you how it goes. So as you can see, I definitely switched away from the plastic because this is a microwave safe bowl. The only thing I would say is that if you're going to use a kind of bowl like this is more of a glass one, you definitely need some oven mitts or maybe a blanket or a piece of cloth just to take away the heat of it. So when I popped it, you can definitely see a difference in the poppiness of it. First of all, there's less kernels, and I want you guys to kind of infer as to why that is. So why is it that the room temperature kernels were way more, and the one from the freezer was much less kernels that were popped? If you want the answer to that, I will explain it towards the end. So here I am doing back to last. I don't know why I didn't go in numerical order, but it doesn't really matter the order you're doing it in, as long as they've all been in the same situation or simulation of the environment you want to stimulate in for about the same amount of time. So as you can see, it's very hot because I was doing it straight off of the previous popping, and here you can see a much bigger difference, especially with the one from the freezer. You barely see any kernels here. Also note me using the piece of cloth to kind of help me because it was very hot. So I kind of recorded my data in my chart by using tally marks. How it works is that when you draw 4 lines down, that represents 4, and then the slash represents that it's 5. So instead of counting it one by one, you just count each group. So like, let's say I have like 5 slashes through each one. 5 times 5 is 25, so I know that was about 25 pops. So here I'm just like measuring out the volume. I did do it for the other 2 trials, but I'm just physically showing you guys how to do this just so it's much easier. I am using 1 cup, as 1 cup is about equivalent to the 2 quarts you would need, but if you do have access to the 2 quarts, you can go ahead and use that. This is just an alternative just in case. So I'm kind of using my hands. I did wash my hands because sanitation. In case you want to eat it, you definitely want to make sure that all the utensils you're using are definitely sanitized so you don't get any food poisoning or cross contamination happening. So I'm still using the cloth because it is very hot, like very hot. So once you measure that out, we're just gonna redo the chart. I'm just redoing the chart just so it's easier for you guys to kind of see the data. In the corner you can kind of see like my trial one, and it's very kind of not neat, so I'm just redoing it so it's easier for you guys to see. So first off, I labeled the type of bag it was, or the type of condition it was under. This is called the independent variable. So it's basically what we're testing, and we're testing how the different types of temperature affects how the popcorn pops, or like how many popcorn, or like how many pops the popcorn has. Kind of like a tongue twister, but that's basically it. And so we also measured the time that it stopped at. I used it in seconds. You can also do it in minutes. So let's say that you don't hear any pops when the popcorn's popping for about 2 to 3 seconds, or maybe I'll say 5 seconds just to be 100% sure. You would just write that time down and then you would just stop it. So I'm just labeling this down. And the unit when we're using the volume is just cups, or if you're using the actual quart, 2 quart cup or 2 quart like bowl, you can also use that instead. So I'm just labeling this down and also adding the conditions. So again, with the tallying, I basically just counted it all up, and you can kind of see it to the left. No, when I originally did it, I did swap it because when recording the third, I realized I put it into bag 2, but I did fix that on the trial for the actual bag 2 itself. So for me, I had about 122 pops for the first bag, which was room temperature, and 84 pops for the second bag, which was in the fridge. And then when looking at the bag 3, I had significantly like less pops, and that's because the internal temperature of the bag 3, aka the one in the freezer, has a much colder internal temperature. So in order for popcorn to pop, the interior pressure has to be heated so that the kernels contents are heated, and so the moisture, which is like the water, or like the water, the humidity aspect, and the interior of the kernel is then like turned into a water vapor, and that makes it expand and then turn into like the shape of the popcorn we know today. So when your kernel is really cold, it's going to take a much like longer concentrated temperature in order to heat up that kernel, when compared to something at room temperature, which is already at like average temperature or a much higher temperature. So when you heat it up in the microwave, it can pop at a much faster rate, as seen with the 122 number of pops compared to only 20 with bag 3. So with the bag 2, the one that was in the fridge, we did see that it had more pops in bag 3, but definitely less pops than bag 1. This is because the fridge makes it cold, but it doesn't freeze it off all the way through. So the popcorn kernel is still able to heat up its internal temperature. It just might take a little bit longer when compared to the one of the cold or the warm one. So yeah. So previously, if you kind of go back a little, you do see the full chart just in case you want to compare it with yours. And again, this is me just adding sugar to the popcorn kernels that I popped. I put it back in the stem kit box, but I made sure to wash it, so make sure you do that. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your tasty popcorn. Bye!